She has never lost to this woman. Not once. Not in any format. And nobody can tell you why. Before you scroll past this, I need you to look at one number. 0. That is how many times a 21-year-old with almost no history in her sport has lost to a former world number 3. Not on grass. Not on hard court. Not in singles. Not in doubles. 0. And in about 11 minutes, you are going to understand exactly why that number refuses to change, and why the woman on the other side of the net might be the most confused person in professional tennis right now. Here's the part that should genuinely bother you. 2 matches. 2 different continents. 2 different surfaces. 2 different months. And the exact same scoreline, down to the final digit. If I told you that before showing you the data, you would call it impossible. Tennis does not repeat itself like that. Yet here we are, and by the end of this video you will see the mechanism behind it so clearly that you will not be able to watch this rivalry the same way again. Stick with me, because there is a second layer buried inside this story that almost nobody has connected yet. It does not live in the match everyone is talking about. It lives 3 days earlier, in a match that looked completely finished, and it might be the real reason this 21-year-old cannot be put away. Quick thing before we go further. If breakdowns like this are the kind of tennis content you actually want more of, not just highlights, not just reactions, but the actual mechanics underneath a result, this channel exists for exactly that. Hitting subscribe costs you nothing, but it means the next one of these lands in front of you the moment it's ready, instead of a week late after everyone else has already explained it wrong. If that sounds like your kind of channel, now's the moment. Let's set the stage properly, because you cannot appreciate what Alexandra Eala is doing until you understand who she keeps doing it to. Elina Svitolina is not a name you stumble into by accident. She has been ranked as high as world number 3. She has reached the semifinals of all 4 Grand Slams. She won an Olympic bronze medal in Tokyo. She has been beating elite players for over a decade, and she does it with one of the most disciplined defensive games the WTA Tour has ever produced. Watch her for 10 minutes and you will notice she almost never tries to end a point outright. Every ball she hits has one job: survive to the next shot. Push you a foot further behind the baseline than you want to be. Buy herself another second to reset. She wins by making rallies longer, not by hitting harder, and by the 8th or 9th ball of an exchange, the player across the net is usually the one who cracks first. That is not luck. That is 15 years of engineering. Now put a 21-year-old from the Philippines across the net from that. A country that, before this year, had never produced a player anywhere near the top 30 in the world. Alexandra Eala walked into 2026 ranked in the hundreds. She has since climbed to a career high of number 28, reaching the 4th round at Wimbledon, becoming the first Filipina in the Open era to make the second week of a Grand Slam, after beating the defending champion, Iga Swiatek, along the way. She has now beaten 6 top 10 opponents this season, taking her record against the top 10 to 8 wins and 4 losses. This is not a hot week. This is a 14-month climb with no plateau in sight. Here is where it gets strange. In June, on the grass courts of Berlin, Eala beat Svitolina 6-3, 6-4 in the quarterfinals. Grass is fast. Balls skid low. A young, aggressive hitter catching a veteran defender off guard on a surface built for speed, fine, that has an explanation. 5 weeks later, in Washington, on a hard court, at night, under lights, in a completely different climate against the same opponent, Eala won again. The score, 6-3, 6-4. Identical. Same sets. Same games. The kind of coincidence that statistically should not exist between 2 humans playing a sport where conditions change everything. So ask yourself the question I couldn't shake. If you change the surface, change the continent, change the time of day, and the outcome comes out exactly the same to the number, where is the actual variable? Because it clearly is not the court underneath their feet. Here is layer 1, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Eala does not give Svitolina her time. Every deep, heavy ball Svitolina hits is designed to buy 2 seconds, enough time to slide back to center, reset her footing, get into her defensive shape. That system has worked against nearly everyone she has ever played. Eala refuses to allow it. She stands close to the baseline and takes the ball early, on the rise, before it has finished dropping, sending it back into a court Svitolina hasn't recovered into yet. Do that once, and it's uncomfortable. Do it for an entire match, and the best defender on tour stops defending. She starts chasing. Normally, this is where a young player who tries this style falls apart. Playing that close to the line on a return leaves almost no margin for error, one misread and the ball sails long. Most 21-year-olds who try this against a top 10 veteran self-destruct within 20 minutes. Eala does not. In the Washington quarterfinal, she committed only 4 unforced errors in the entire opening set against Svitolina. 4. Against one of the most consistent competitors in the sport. That explains why she wins points from a neutral position. It explains the breaks, the sets, the identical scorelines on 2 different continents. But it does not explain the other thing Eala keeps doing, something that shows up nowhere in the Svitolina matches at all. It shows up 3 days earlier, in the second round, against the defending champion of that same tournament. Down 1-5 in the second set. Against Leylah Fernandez, the reigning Washington champion, a former US Open finalist, a player who had already beaten Eala earlier this season in Stuttgart. 1 game away from a deciding set. 90% of matches that reach that scoreline end exactly the way you'd expect. Eala won 6 of the next 7 games and took the tiebreak 7-1. Fernandez finished with 14 unforced errors in that set alone, and no real explanation for what had just happened to her. Now line that up against everything else this season. Round 1 in Washington, down a set to Olympic champion Zheng Qinwen, Eala won the next 2 6-4, 6-1. Wimbledon, she took out defending champion Iga Swiatek. Auckland, back in January, partnered with American Iva Jovic in doubles, she and Jovic beat none other than Elina Svitolina and Venus Williams, 7-6, 6-1, saving 7 set points along the way. Every single time the match looked finished, Eala found the other side of it. Comment below right now, one word. Would you call that a giant killer, or something else entirely? Because I think the label everyone's using for her is wrong, and I want to know if you saw it coming before I said it. Here's why: giant killer doesn't fit. A giant killer produces one incredible day and hopes it repeats. That is a level, and levels come and go. What Eala has looks like something else, call it a recovery rate. For almost every player alive, falling behind carries a psychological cost that compounds the longer it lasts. By the time you're down 1-5, you're not just behind on the scoreboard, you're paying interest on games lost 15 minutes earlier. Eala does not appear to carry that debt. Down 1-5 looks structurally identical to level in the way she plays her very next point, same footwork, same shot selection, same commitment to taking the ball early. She simply restarts from 0, over and over. Put that next to Svitolina's whole game plan, and you can see exactly why this matchup keeps ending the same way. Svitolina's method depends on an opponent slowly wearing down over the course of a match. Eala doesn't wear down. Whatever weapon that style is supposed to be, it has nothing to grip onto against her. If you're still here, that tells me you actually care about the mechanics behind this, not just the score. So seriously, subscribing takes 2 seconds and it's the only way you won't miss what happens next, because what happens next might be the biggest test this theory has faced all year. Because here is the collision nobody has prepared for. On Saturday in Washington, Eala faces Naomi Osaka in the semifinals, a 4-time Grand Slam champion, one of the biggest serves in the women's game, a player who ended her own quarterfinal by grinding out a 4-6, 6-4, 6-3 win over Elisabetta Cocchiaretto. Svitolina wanted long rallies, and Eala took the time away from her. Osaka does not want long rallies to begin with, she wants to end points fast, before Eala can ever start dictating. For the first time in this entire run, Eala might not be the one doing the rushing. She might be the one getting rushed. The two of them have never played each other. 0 head-to-head. No prior match to study. Nobody, not the analysts, not the coaches, not Eala or Osaka themselves, actually knows what this particular collision looks like yet. And there's more riding on it than just a trophy. The US Open seeding cutoff lands later this month. If Eala keeps climbing from here, she gets seeded at a Grand Slam for the first time in her career, which means avoiding a top 10 player in the very first round in New York. Every match left in Washington is quietly shaping her draw at the last major of the season. Step back even further and this stops being about one bracket entirely. No player from the Philippines, man or woman, has ever climbed this high in world tennis. Eala has said herself that going home has gotten complicated, that crowds now require security, that this is uncharted territory for her country as much as for her. An entire nation is learning what it means to follow this sport in real time, because one 21-year-old keeps refusing to lose matches she is supposed to lose. So here's what I actually want to leave you with. Every player who has ever faced a slow, grinding defender like Svitolina eventually finds the line where the mental exhaustion catches up. Eala hasn't shown hers yet. Berlin didn't find it. Washington didn't find it. Maybe Osaka finds it on Saturday. Maybe nobody finds it this year. I genuinely do not know, and that uncertainty is exactly why I'll be breaking down that semi-final the moment it's over, using the same lens we used tonight. If you want to know whether this theory survives contact with a 4-time Grand Slam champion, don't leave it to chance, subscribe now, because I'm going to have the answer ready, and I'd rather you get it from here first instead of scrolling past it on someone else's channel after the result is already old news. Naomi Osaka is next. Nobody knows what that looks like yet. Let's find out together.